Greetings! What is up, and a very warm welcome to the channel. The sun is shining, and the Magpie is quarantining. Coming to you guys right now with a live 1 vs 1 game fresh from the ladder featuring spawning in the south. It's going to be the Wehrmacht pieces of Deimos. And spawning in the north, it's going to be the Soviet forces of Pushka Pashka Gorbachev. Okay, interesting. So, this looks like it's going to be about the most vanilla game possible. We just got Soviets versus Wehrmacht with, like, some turbo vanilla commanders. Like, this is just old school. Probably the most interesting thing going on here is, like, Lend-Lease or something, insofar as out there stuff goes. Well, I guess Struppen Doctrine's pretty out there, actually. Pretty transformational stuff. But as these players do move out to do their business upon the map and bring each other to bear in a deadly World War II struggle, I guess I'm just going to spend a minute or two to just, I don't know, talk about stuff like I usually do. So, let's see now, what's going on? Oh, that's right, yeah, so I have been, okay, so this whole coronavirus thing has blown around, and that has made me insanely busy. There has been a lot of things that have needed my attention work-wise. So I've basically been trying to take care of as much of that as possible, whilst also trying to self-isolate as much as possible and limit my exposure. Because it's all about risk mitigation and risk management. Yeah, so to that end, I've just been like taking care of everything that I can do and then sort of basically bunkering down at home. And the proper bunkering down phase is basically beginning now. I've basically done everything I can that I physically can out in the real world. And now begins my bunkering down phase. It may interest viewers to know, I suppose, I should point out. Hopefully it doesn't sound too much like I'm bragging, but I do actually have some background in virology and microbiology. I have a degree. That was my first degree that I studied. It is actually kind of... I appreciate that it's a terrible thing. The coronavirus is really, really bad. And, you know, there's a lot of people out there whose lives are being seriously negatively affected or ended. So I appreciate it's really, really bad. However, from a virological point of view, as a virologist, it is really interesting to see a lot of the things that I've studied and been thinking about over the sort of past decade kind of come to practice and become relevant in the sort of focus or in the eye of the world. And I sort of have a slightly weird take on the whole coronavirus outbreak, which I might get to at some point, but I actually think it's probably about the healthiest possible scenario that could have happened for an infectious agent that has become a pandemic. But I'll talk about that another time perhaps, because this game's starting to heat up now. Looks like we've got a fairly standard build here coming out of Deimos here. Wehrmacht stuff doing Wehrmacht things, MG42, Triple Grenadier out on support here. Taking some handy fights around the map. Not going to come close to a squad wipe on that conscript squad, would have been nice. Looks like Pushka opting to not specialize. I believe he is actually techless. Indeed, completely techless. And going just for quad conscript for now. Okay, so finally we have a commander choice out of Pushka, so that gives us some idea of what his intentions are for this game. He's gone for guard motor coordination tactics, a stalwart, and an old favourite of mine. It's a rare day that I will play Soviets without this guy on my roster. Yeah, just gives you great stuff throughout all phases of the game. Guards infantry are a really stalwart and nice unit to have access to. The 120mm tube, okay, it's actually of limited effectiveness these days, but I still like mixing one into my build if I have access to it, just because it makes your opponent flinch every time they hear that donk, and every time a shell comes raining in, you know, and just occasionally, I know they're not as accurate as they used to be, but just occasionally you have those games where your 120mm mortar just gets the squad wipes, particularly against Wehrmacht, because they have those smaller squads. So, yeah, I like the 120mm. It's a gamble. It's a risk. It's a sort of high variance effective unit, or its effectiveness is highly variable is what I mean to say. So, yeah, and then you get the vehicle crew repairs, great. You get the T-34-85, nice, and you get the Mark vehicle, which is also just gives you something against Axis big cats and heavy, and you know, super heavy sort of endgame tech. Which, like the rest of these 4 abilities, don't really give you anything for. So basically what I'm saying is if you have an Su-85, having Mark vehicle sort of amplifies the effectiveness of that unit to the extent where your Axis opponent actually has to be very careful with their Tiger and things like that. So that's a nice option to have. It really affects the dynamic in a very positive way for the Soviet player in the late game. And we're going to have to see exactly where Pushka is going to navigate the game into. Looks like we've got the support weapon Campanaya that has been constructed now. So we may see a Maxim getting mixed in here momentarily. Yeah. So obviously, turning back to the coronavirus thing, because that's like super at the forefront of everyone's minds now, I would imagine. I live in England. England is in lockdown right now. So there are some pretty harsh legal restrictions on what I can and can't do in my day-to-day life. I feel like I should probably just have like a coronavirus cast actually at some point, because I feel like I actually have quite a lot of things to say about how things are and how people should be. Not that I'm an expert or anything, but I don't know, I just feel like I have a fairly interesting take on this whole scenario, and it might actually be really good to talk about it at length sometime. Yeah, I might give some thought to doing that sometime. But anyway, yeah, so I am like significantly constricted in what I can and can't do every day. Basically what it means is, for the foreseeable future, I would imagine for the next 2 to 3 months, I am going to be mostly at home, so that's quite nice in a way. So I've bought Dirt Rally 2, really looking forward to getting some sweet runs in on that. That one I will be streaming. That one's just, I used to stream Dirt 1, and loved that game to bits. So, ooh, rifle grenade. So yeah, I'll be streaming that one. I've got the new Animal Crossing game on a whim. I basically got it because my game voucher was going to expire on the Switch, and wasn't expecting to like it. Honestly, just kind of had to use the game voucher because it was going to expire. That has been my most played game by far since it came out. It is actually ridiculously good. I read the reviews and I was just like, how is this like 92% on Metacritic? I know the Animal Crossing series are good, but aren't they getting a bit tired now? The answer is no. This new Animal Crossing is actually legit awesome. It's just so good. It's just so good. But I won't get too bogged down talking about it here. Just kind of updating you guys. So yeah, what the? We got a 251 half track on the queue. Okay. I believe it's like 90 munitions to grab the flame projectors these days. So he will have access to that option if he wants to. Whenever I see the 251 half track on the queue, I'm always kind of like rooting for them to just keep it vanilla and use it as a reinforcing half track, because I just love the dynamism that lends to the Vermax playstyle. You can be much more aggressive, you can switch to a much more momentum-based style when you have a reinforcing half-track. The drawback, well, it's basically 30 fuel, and, what is it, 200 manpower, I believe. That is combat ineffective, and that is quite a harsh penalty to pay. I mean, the machine gun on this thing does not really kill anything. It is not contributing significantly to your average fight. So, anyway, here it is. We'll see if he's going to get those flame projectors. They are indeed 90 munitions, so, how much is the, yeah, 200 manpower, 30 fuel. Cool, cool. It's been a while since I've given Company of Heroes 2 any attention, so just blowing the dust off some of the knowledge here. Looks like we've got a moment of calm here. Let's check out the scoreline. So it looks like 444 for our Soviet player, under 491 for our Vermac player. Wow. So Deimos here has been playing pretty good turf control game, at least as far as the victory points go. Going to be establishing a triple cap here momentarily. T70 moves onto the field, and that's going to start doing its thing out on the map. But it's really nice for Deimos to have a ticket lead, which he's probably going to be extending here momentarily. That's really nice. So Pushka here probably going to be under the pressure here as this game moves on, because Langreskaya is a map where once the Axis player has access to a big tank, a big cat, you can just, because the map is so small, let me correct the tack here. Because the map is so small, if you're the Axis player, you can basically float the Tiger basically along this line, and it actually locks down like 2/3 of the map, and it's pretty easy to transition it just to peek around here if your enemy like throws a large attack down the left flank here, down the western flank I should say. So it's maps like this like exaggerate the effectiveness of heavy tanks because their weaknesses are significantly ameliorated. Like Tiger tanks are really slow, but that doesn't matter so much when the map is really small. So yeah, I mean there are Tiger options available. Wait, no, Deimos is going to go ahead and choose a commander. All right, it's going to be Jaeger Infantry Doctrine. So opting not to have access to a Tiger, very interesting to be honest. I mean, if you're ever gonna utilize the Axis advantage in terms of late game armor, Langreskaya is just like the map for it. But you know, maybe he just played a map on Langreskar and lost a Tiger to... Ooh, getting squad wipe there. And lost a Tiger to an SU-85, because SU-85s also do dominate on this sort of open kind of small map. So, yeah, maybe he's just not feeling the Tiger right now. We've got a tube on the field, and it is a 120mm mortar, so that's going to be throwing down the heavy boom boom. Deimos going to have to be paying attention out here. Looks like we've also got the Jaeger Command Squad moving onto the field, so some fairly rarefied and specialist infantry going to be making their presence felt here on the field. We're going to have to keep an eye on them. See how they do. It's a veritable shooting ground out here. It's a hunting field, though. Axis units basically shoving their way around the map. I mean, I know we just saw a squad wipe go down, but Pushka here needs to do something to change the momentum of this game. 120mm. Needs to do something to change the momentum of this game, because just really having a hard time securing the middle line of the map right now as our Soviet player. Needs to make some meaningful impact on these victory points and push the Axis player off of some fuel and off of some munitions points on their side of the map. I think like the Soviet units haven't actually really been on the south side of the map since like for the last 5 minutes, it feels like it's been really bad. The T-70 right now is stricken and in need of repairs. Engineers headed back to do that now. The 120mm mortar tube just flailing in with wild inaccuracy, as is its wont. But, you know, yeah, so there's a Pack 40 in the roster, you know, a couple of Fausts. The Jaeger Command Squad also have Faust option available to them, so this T-70 is going to have to be quite lucky if it's going to be seriously effective. I think the best case scenario for that T-70 now is just for Pushka just to nurse it along, keep it on the fringes of fights, taking shots where it can, getting value, look to get it up to the 2 and 3 star veterancy, which make it into such a great unit later on in the game. Gonna have to forgive my mouse, it's just still having these issues with Company of Heroes. It's so bizarre. Alright, yeah, so that's the 300 ticket warning right now. Pushka in genuine danger. Needs to do something. So yeah, Tank of V Battalion Command is here. No sign of mechanized reg yet. In fact, there's just been no fuel, that's why. So this is tough. Maybe saving up manpower for guards here? Oh no, these conscripts just getting cut down by LMG 42s at close ranges are just so nasty. T-70 going to come in here and try and turn the tide, but it's a little late. Where's the Pack 40 right now? It is in position, about to start taking shots into the light armor here. Oh no, he's coming forwards. Oh, that looks pretty bad. Could be a dead T-70 here. Okay, that's an unlucky miss there for the Axis player. And that's going to enable the T-70 to easily slink away. Ziskan actually going to be the choice here. Alright, let's check the tech here for the Axis player. So we've got Battle Phase 2 just now finishing. Could have a support armor core popping up in the near future. May elect to just save, but I feel like if you're playing Jaeger Infantry Doctrine, then you probably want the support armor core. Yeah, okay, cool. Okay. So he's going to go for the support armor core. I would love it, actually, for Pushka to mix in a couple of Maxims. This is such a strong map for machine guns. I feel like this Ziskan is just a result of lack of scouting, because, like, well, we know that the support armor core isn't even finished, let alone the budget there for a tank. Actually, it will be there in about a minute. But that still means that this Ziskan was, like, about 2 minutes early, so you definitely could have taken a guard squad and then still had the Ziskan out in time, and there's just been no scouting in the Axis base. I know it's not always an option for Soviets, but it's... would have been nice if he could have had some sort of airborne support option or something to have a look in there. Alright, finally making a determined play for control of midline right now. We've got conscripts taking this position. T-70 is actually going to mean that they will grab that. Conscripts also going to decap middle. As well they need to. 211 tickets now only remaining for our Soviet player under like the basically untouched 491 of Deimos. Nasty stuff. Absolutely horrendously nasty stuff. Boom. 120 mil. Finally gets like a mild hit. 2 kills so far and a little bit of veterancy on that unit, so it has been, as I expected, underwhelming. Yeah, unless you get really lucky with some like big splashy hits. The 120 mil mortar tube is not that great. To be honest, for 360 manpower, 340 manpower, I honestly think it needs a bit of help. Are these telemines? There are telemines in the hood here, so that's a risk for this T-70. So is this pack gun. But yeah, look at this 120mm tube. It's like missing by like half a screen's width. It's like consistently just absolutely terrible. I honestly think it needs a bit of help. It does need a bit of help, because it's only at Vet 2 it gets combat effectiveness. I guess that means accuracy. No, it's only at 3. Well, that's barrage accuracy, so I wonder what it actually means by Oh, no, so veterancy rank 2 for shell accuracy. But the trouble is, like, until you get the accuracy, you're not really vetting up at all. So it's like, it's just a really difficult unit at the moment. It just needs a bit of help. If they just tighten its accuracy up, just even, not much, just a tiny bit, I think it'll be fine. But at the moment, it's just not great. Anyway, looks like it's going to be an Ostwind here for Deimos. Interesting choice. I guess Deimos recognizing that the Axis forces here are in the ascendancy, and he's just going to look to end the game in the next sort of 10 minutes rather than in the next 30 minutes. And that seems like a smart choice when you've had a start as strong as this. So let's see, where's the Ostwind going to be heading here? It's going to just head out straight into mid, where the pack gun can support it. The 251 half-track, by the way, this whole time has been being used as a reinforcing half-track, up to 2 stars of veterancy. That's really cool. Faust here, going to get the kill on the T-70. That's a shame for the Soviet player, whose roster is now going to be considerably taxed. But Soviet forces are pushing. There's just MGs everywhere, just hosing these poor infantry. They need to retreat, basically. They're just getting cut down in the open over there. Pushka here just trying to secure some victory points, but Deimos closing the door firmly here on this Soviet army. Let's just check the tech for the Soviet player. Okay, mechanized armor Campanile is up, but the fuel income this game has just been so low. I mean, it's not been absolutely zero, but it's been like super low, and that's just punishing. So there's not going to be a T-34-85 or even just a T-34 for at least a couple of minutes here, and I'm not even convinced that that's the right choice. Ooh, this Ostwind just having its way in the midfield right now. And as the dust settles, it's going to be Deimos in control of the 3 VPs once again, as soon as he gets some Axis boots onto this southern VP. Oh, that's a problem.
Hey, T-gun here.
Putting down some barrages into Fog of War. Looks like it is going to be a T-70, just the regular T-70 here. Looks like Pushka fully cognizant of the fact that you don't get to take your spare fuel into the next game with you. Going to try and spend his resources in order to have some effect in this game before he's kicked out of it. That does make sense. When you're up against the clock this hard, you do want the fastest available way of turning the fuel resource into battlefield presence and power. That is the T-34, so I understand the choice here. I just feel like it's going to get super hard countered by like another pack gun or an imminent Panzer IV. And then, like, where do you go as the Soviet player? I don't know, man. He's going to... Oh, my God, these conscripts are getting shot up. This MG42, luckily, is having to fall back, or else it would for sure have squad wiped those guys. Woo! 120mm tube. Finally gets a shot on target. Lucky for the Axis player, the MG does fall back just before that one lands. Still getting some nice damage in, though. Let's check the... so 5 kills, 1 star of veterancy. Still fairly underwhelming for 340 manpower, but interesting to keep an eye on. Here comes the T-34. But, I mean, 141 tickets remaining. Conscripts managed to find mid. T-70's going to commit to south here. I would love it if the Soviet player could just task one unit with sneaking down the western flank here and coming onto that left, the westernmost VP. Just even, like, the engineers or something? Like, just something. To be honest, actually, I think it's fine to buy your second squad of engineers next, because turnaround time on this T-34 is going to be, like, crucial. Anyway, T-34 here, going to be able to cast some effective shots into some squads of engineers here whilst the Pak-40 transitions, but once that Pak-40 is here, it's going to have to get out of there. Grenadier's going to come across here and grab this VP, and he's getting awfully close with this T-34. Doesn't want to get Fausted. What are we doing here? Careful, bro. Oh wow, he actually catches the he catches the Grenadiers going for the MG42. That is basically a squad wipe. Wow. That was a really ambitious attempt to pick up an MG42 there from Deimos. I don't agree with that at all. He knew that the T-34 was just behind that building. That seems sketchy at best. Okay, alright. So picks off a squad of Grenadiers effectively there, or like forces them to transmute into an MG42, which is not a very good trade for the Axis player, really. And now here comes a Panzer IV. So that's going to redress the balance of power significantly. I mean, Pushka has the tools to deal with this Panzer IV. It is possible. Do we have AT grenades? Yeah, we have AT grenades. But having the ingredients to be able to deal with a Panzer IV and then actually dealing with it are two very different things. And Pushka here still very much on the back foot, but to their credit, has stabilized. Finally gets Western VP. Finally denies the Western fuel point from the Axis player. Finally, these are the signs of life here stirring for this Soviet player. This is what we like to see. Let's crack the tack because there's a moment of quiet here. Panzer IV going to take the western flank. Ostwin moving to support. Zisgun right now, not mobile, just going to maintain position in mid. Looks like these conscripts will be forced to yield. This is just too much stuff. All of the MGs are over here, actually. This might be a good time to dive down the right flank, but it looks like a lot of the Soviet units right now are reinforcing, rearming, and without these two squads of conscripts, there's not actually a lot of pushing power in this force. Still, probably enough with the T-34 and these conscripts, so I like getting aggressive here. I like these conscripts coming forward. They're also going to scout the position of the 251 half-track. These conscripts here getting awfully low. Okay, he does get the fallback. Yeah, he does get the pullback on them. Manages to get an AT grenade to donk that one. T-70 comes in here to try. Sorry, T-34 comes in here to try and look for that Ostwin. But he's going to be met with the fearsome barrels of a Pak-40 and a Panzer IV. Is he going to just stay and trade for the Ostwin? Right, he stays and trades for the Ostwin. Okay, you need to try and get out of here, but you shouldn't. Pak-40 should get you. Boom! And that's a kill. All right, so trades the. Don't really like that trade, if I'm honest. Because now your opponent just still has a Panzer IV left over, and things just look really dire. So like, I just don't know. Mark vehicle was used there, by the way, so that was 80 munitions worth of marking. That's probably well spent there. I didn't actually see, but pretty sure it made a difference. Alright, and now somehow, okay, so the Panzer IV is going to wheel all the way around here to try and have a go at these conscripts. Another T-70 comes onto the queue. And I feel like we might just be stuck in that awful dynamic where the Soviet player is kind of on T-34 life support. And is just like having to produce and sacrifice T-34s in order to stay in the game. And, you know, we've seen that dynamic a number of times, and we know it doesn't usually end well for the Soviet player. Having said that, though, these last few minutes have been much better than the first sort of two-thirds of the game. Pushka able to access victory points pretty significantly and stopping the bleed even, but looks like victory points will be falling back into Axis control now, and Pushka's still in just a fairly dire position. You know what, though? I mean, the main reason this is a dire situation is because of the scoreline. That's the real problem. But actually, if you look at these armies, he cancels the T-34. I actually love that. He's going for a Zisgun. Much better. Much better. I like this much more. Because now with two Zisguns, you have a real solution for trying to deal with the Axis armor. And then, oh, look at this as well. He's getting a pack gun. So by not buying an armor choice at this timing, his second pack gun is basically a paperweight. So that's pretty cool. Alright, this is smart now. This is smart. Pushka showing signs of life here. Needs to stabilize the bleed, though. Just can't be feeding away scoreline like this. But yeah, the scoreline's the real problem. The scoreline and the fact that the Axis players had a bit more fuel over the course of the game. But these armies are almost fairly matched now. The two Zisguns can help deal with the Panzer, at least keep it from being super efficient. And then the infantry essentially is an even match. I would still love to see like another mortar tube and or a Maxim for Pushka, but you know, it's going to try and do his best. Whoa, bro, you sure you don't want to capture this point? Maybe just capture the point. There we go. Nice. So yeah, I mean, there is a world here where Pushka is actually able to stabilize, albeit on a super low amount of tickets. And then it's kind of like a weird reversal of the normal dynamic that we're used to seeing. So, I mean, obviously what normally happens is the Allied player or the Soviet player gets off to a good start in terms of the scoreline, and then the Axis player stabilizes, usually in the late game, usually coinciding with the arrival of some sort of heavy fuel investment. And then once the Axis player stabilizes, they can start slowly clawing the map back and slowly clawing the scoreline back and slowly grinding down the Soviet advantage and just wiping units bit by bit and just taking smart fights and basically just winning the game after they stabilize with a heavy scoreline deficit. And that's the kind of plan that we need to see from Pushka here. That's the way it's going to have to be. Okay, it's a T-34-85. I believe that one is. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure about that, man. Like, really? We're going to go for the T-34-85 here, now? I mean, it does control the current battlefield, and, like, Pushka knows that Deimos won't have access to a Tiger Tank as this game goes on, I still feel like I would have preferred an Su-85 just because it just answers the Panzer IV so hard. And this is just a really good map for T-34-85s. So we've got the little light artillery barrage here coming in from the from Deimos's Jaeger infantry doctrine. But yeah, because the the Su-85 can just like hang out here and just like prevent Axis tanks from operating or being at all good, and then you can really start putting pressure on. You can start creeping it forwards and just being kind of as much as annoying as possible with it. Whereas a T-34-85 is just like, it's just kind of a tank. Like, the pack guns just deal with it. Oh no, you need to move that back, bro. He does, nice. I mean, the T-34-85 is a fine tank. It really is fine. It's just I feel like the ceiling on a T-34-85 is so much lower, and it's so much harder. It requires more things to go your way in fights for it to be efficient. I feel like you build the T-34-85 like if you feel like you are in a position to push and you need the sort of more dynamic, more momentum, more movement-based playstyle and support that that the T-34-85 brings to your army. I mean, it has a turret, it's effective against infantry, it can support a push in ways that an Su-85 can't, but I feel like that's not the thing that Pushka needs. I feel like that's not the element that's missing. I also feel like that's not the plan for victory. Like, you're not just going to win with one push and kick your opponent out of this game. The Axis player is just in too well-seated of a position. So here comes another light artillery barrage. Gonna catch out this... Is that a Maxim? Yay, so it looks like at least one Maxim has been added into the roster here. Pushka just getting into a nice position. These are the units you need to stabilize. Double Zis gun, double MG. Is this a stolen one? Okay, no, he's just literally bought 2 Maxims. Love it, Pushka. That's just sweet. Alright, yeah, because now we're denying victory points. This is why the Axis player has been winning for large sections of this game, just because MG42s have been stopping Soviet infantry from accessing victory points. And now we can give the Germans a little bit of a taste of that action. So there we go. Take that, son. I'm trying really hard not to let my inherent Soviet bias overcome this cast. It is difficult sometimes. I don't even know why I have a Soviet bias, because I'm such an Axis player. Like, if you look at... I don't know what the statistics literally are, but I reckon, like, I'm probably, like, 75-25 Axis allied, like, in terms of my games played and stuff, like... But I just love watching Soviets. They just always make me laugh. Anyway. Alright, so there's a moment of quiet here as the Axis player has to fall back and regather his position and prepare for a fresh assault on the map. And the Soviet player is doing really good Soviet stuff. Double Zis gun, MG's now securing the middle of the map, and when you secure the middle of the map, you get 2 of the victory points. That's how Langreskaya works. You get center and you get southeast. Looks like Deimos here going to be responding by grabbing this victory point here. That's fine. He gets to have that, but definitely you can feel the momentum of this game has shifted. Look at the top left, look at the top right. These armies now just an even match. No one has the edge. And I feel like it's been a long time since I've been able to say that in this game. And, you know, Pushka has somewhat stabilized at around, you know, in the 120s on scoreline. And Deimos, this is the dynamic that we're used to seeing Axis players try to execute. And Pushka is kind of doing it. And if there was going to be a commander who could do it, it's probably going to be someone like Guards Motor. Because you just have these defensive tools. Like the Guards infantry, like the 120mm tube, like the vehicle repairs, like the Hail Mary marked target to pick off units in there. And I mean, the T-34 is not a particularly defensive unit, but it can be used defensively. So actually, Pushka is going to have enough fuel to make another choice here in a moment, and I'm excited to see what the choice will be. Katusha adds a lot of utility and a fresh dimension to this Soviet force that will put Deimos on the back foot whilst they try to adapt and try to counter the indirect fire-based rocket barrages that unit provides. The Su-85 is the one that I'll always recommend because I'm Magpie and I just am pretty certain it's the best unit. Like, tank destroyers are just the best units and everyone else is wrong and doesn't use them enough. And I don't know why that's how I feel, but it is how I feel. Or, let's see, what else could you add? It's basically one of those two, isn't it? Or another T-3485. That would actually be fine. That actually meant, yeah, if your plan is to go to two T-3485s, then I like the first one. Okay, it's going to be Katusha. This makes a ton of sense. Fine. Katusha's great. Yeah, two T-3485s is actually like troubles for this Axis army, because that can actually overrun the pack guns, maybe pick off the Panzer IV in a very sudden fashion. You know, things can go wrong in a hurry when your opponent has two T-3485s and your army looks like this as the Axis player, so like... You know, that was an option. Ziskan Barrage going to be coming down here. Nice work. Cooking off some dues. These Maxims just doing work. Doing work. No, sir. You may not access this command point. I have a machine gun covering it. And that is nice. Nice work here for Pushka. And now look how many Axis... Oh! Look how many Axis units are just over here. Just like milling around. Basically in kind of disarray, like not able to really fight effectively because of a Ziskan and a Maxim. This is like bread and butter, rock, paper, scissors, kind of, you know, Company of Heroes 2 stuff. This is just using your units in smart ways, and it is working now. Pushka's unit choices coming to the bear. He has the triple cap, actually. He actually doesn't need to maintain this for long. Like, if he can do this for 5 minutes, he'll basically have won the game. And now here comes a Katusha, and I like this choice because it just puts the Axis player on the back foot. If a lot of your power, specifically your anti-tank capability, is in these pack guns, and that Katusha ever finds them with a barrage, you are basically toast. So this first barrage is going to be super telling. I don't know if he's going to fire it like anytime soon. We're just going to keep an eye on the cooldown here. And we're just going to see if he opts to use this barrage. He could get in a bit closer. You could put the Katusha here before you fire. You've got conscripts covering you to make sure nobody flanks up here. So yeah, I mean, look at this. Yeah, MG42. Oh, sorry, it's an MG42 and a Maxim he's got now. Okay, sorry. I'm not sure if I had that wrong earlier when I said he had two Maxims. But whatever, there are significant machine gun resources now for Pushka. Okay, Molotov research finishing up here at the casual 31-minute mark. Nice. Nice. Looking to get some value. And I suppose the first couple of Molotovs probably will surprise Deimos. So yeah, there goes the Katushi. He's got to be firing it here. Soviet stuff. It's just so... Okay, so he gets the veterancy off a pack gun, and he gets a significant amount of men off of a Panzer Grenadier squad. And you know what, actually, the value of that is significantly ameliorated by this bloody 251 half-track, which is continuously reinforcing. And, you know, that actually means that these Panzer Grenadiers are right now back to full men and on the front line fighting. That's the difference these 251 half-tracks make. Now, the problem is, it still costs manpower to do that. Deimos is now flatlining on manpower, and that's a real difficulty once you get to the late game, which we are now firmly in, with Wehrmacht forces. They are a faction that suffers significantly for manpower in the late game. And I know that all Company of Heroes 2 factions have a harder time with manpower in the late game. That's how the game is designed and balanced. But I feel like, especially with Wehrmacht, you are often choking and will often lose games because you're choking for manpower. And yeah, Deimos right now has just nothing in the tank. So a significant barrage from the mortar and or the Katusha, combined with just prolonged frontline fighting where you are just taking attrition to your infantry models, is going to make this a really hard dynamic to maintain for Deimos. Now here comes the light artillery barrage, but it looks like Pushka just going to calmly relocate that Zisgun. Nothing gained there. Machine gun still able to maintain position. These Panzer Grenadiers will be getting hosed down, but looks like some Axis boots managed to find southeast victory points. So these engineers going to be doing a heroic job. There's just nothing out here to check that. In fact, it seems like, where's the other Zisgun? Okay, cool, yeah, you need to keep one Zisgun in mid. You cannot, if you bring both Zisguns over to the west flank, that is a mistake, if you ask me, as the Soviet player. So good to see, leaving a Zisgun, leaving an MG covering mid. Conscript's going to respond to these engineers here, so everything is under control. Pushka taking the appropriate steps, the correct countermeasures to this little opportunistic poke out in the southeast there. Katusha spraying in another barrage here, finds the pack gun, finds some Panzer Grenadiers, finds some hits on the half track. Is the final barrage going to take out the pack gun? Oh, that would have been nice. That would have been nice. But yeah, still just going to keep wiping out these pack guns. Just keep taxing your opponent's manpower, and he's done. Nice. That was a great game there from Pushka. I mean, it wasn't a great game. It was half a really ugly game with some pretty bad choices and just taking a beating. And then there was just a moment where Pushka cancelled the second T-34 and started making really smart choices. Cancelled the second T-34, put the manpower into a Zis gun, held the fuel over for a T-34-85, and then started building machine guns. And then the dynamic just changed. Pushka stabilized. The Ostwind was picked off, albeit by the sacrificial T-34. I grant you that. That was actually before these changes. But still, the Ostwind was picked off. The Panzer IV, whilst it did survive to the end of the game, was just significantly mitigated. It never really felt like it was able to contribute significantly to a fight once the two Zis guns were on the field to cover it. And it just felt like control of the victory points was just not an easy job, but was just it was like a doable thing. Controlling these victory points became possible once the machine guns were on the roster. And Pushka here just making smart choices, just playing a safe and calm Soviet style after that point, just basically stabilizing and kind of, like I say, looking a bit like an Axis player, to be honest. Like, that is an Axis game plan. That is how a vast majority of like Axis and to a slightly lesser extent Overcommand victories look. They look like you are getting smacked about for like 15, 20, maybe even 25 minutes. Then you stabilize, and then suddenly the Allied units don't seem to be finding their mark, and then suddenly there's a massive fuel investment for the Axis player, and something big hits the field, and then the stabilizing starts to turn into pushing the Allied player back and winning. Well, this time we saw the reverse of that dynamic, so that was a really interesting game to watch there. A very just a fairly unusual spectacle to see. So let's have a look and see what else we've got on the ladder right now. So we've got another one with Deimos against Opportunity Cost on Kolodny Farm. So we've got Pushka, who's fighting an Overcommand West player on Kolodny Farm. I think I'm inclined to follow our victorious player here and continue watching the exploits of Pushka, who's going to be taking on the borderline unpronounceable Jixquiat, I believe it was. Who's going to be playing OKW and selecting on the roster the Elite Armor Doctrine, the Grand Offensive Doctrine, and the Luftwaffe Ground Forces Doctrine. So, a sort of cavalcade of interesting and useful options here, providing just all kinds of different play lines and capabilities. OKW's commanders generally are just more transformational than like most other forces. So their commanders really do provide completely different play styles and approaches to the game. And we're going to have to see where Jixquiat wants to take that, spawning as they are in the east here on Kolodny Farm. And spawning in the west, playing as the Soviet forces, it's Pushka, who's coming into this game fresh off of a win against Deimos, and a well-deserved win that was. Not going to be mixing up the roster. We've got the same three Soviet blokes that we saw before. We've got Guards Motor, we've got Lend-Lease, and we've got Geezer on the end. Soviet Combined Arms Army. Is this the guy who gets... Not convinced I actually remember this guy. But hang on, I am just getting a tiny bit cold, so as these players move out onto the field, I'm just going to go and grab an extra layer. Be right back. Okie dokie. Okay. So. I think this calls for... It is actually pretty nippy in England still. So this actually calls for full-on fingerless gloves. Casting gloves. Alright. Okay, so looks like we've got a Kubo opener here for Jixquiat. Storm Pioneer is going to be out in the field. Looks like it's going to be techless conscript-based opening here from Pushka, so same as last game. Looks like that's something that Pushka's just pretty confident with, or just feels comfortable with. So, yeah, conscript-based. What did he go up to last time? I think it was 4 conscripts, and then we saw support armor Campanile. So, see if he's going to do the same thing again, or if he's going to go to 5, or make some adaptations here. I mean, this is OKW. You might want to mix up your build. Might have something special in mind, prepared for taking on these OKW geezers. So yeah, it looks like the Axis forces getting the better end of these opening exchanges, as often they do. Oh, that's a bit frustrating. So these engineers are going to have to fall back with like 80% health lost, but still 4 models, so they're not actually going to be able to reinforce. Of course, medics will not be ready for some time. How much do medics cost again? 250 manpower, yeah. So these engineers are just going to have to be on capping and building duty. That's going to be a very fragile squad for a little while now. Okay, so we've got a fairly immediate commander pick here. It is going to be Ground Defensive Doctrine. Probably, I want to say, and this might be controversial, but probably if you were just to assign a power rating, an arbitrary power rating number to the OKW commanders, I feel like Ground Defensive Doctrine would probably get the highest power rating number. I don't know, I mean, I could be wrong actually, there's probably someone I'm forgetting, but this just feels like a very powerful commander, just in terms of like raw power. Panzer Fusiliers are amazing. Smoke bombs are amazing. The only dodgy one here is the infrared STGs. They are, I'll grant you, pretty niche, not super great. But even they can be very efficient. They just need a lot of things. You need to have built Obersoldaten for a start, and you need to have the munitions and want to spend them on infrared STGs and not the very good LMG-34 that Obersoldaten can also access. And it also means that then you have to play the Obersoldaten in a different way. And I feel like Obersoldaten are actually just naturally better designed, or sort of more naturally like want to sit back and use the LMG-34 rather than the playstyle that they have to sort of go for when you give them the STGs, which is like a more mobile style, better at sort of like slightly more sort of mid-rangey stuff. I mean, they're still really potent with the infrared STGs. It's just like, it's just another munitions heavy upgrade on a unit that has another great munitions heavy upgrade, and it's like, this just could be something better, I guess. But the tank commander is amazing, and the Tiger tank is amazing. So like, this is just a powerful, a very meaty commander. It takes some beating. There's just a certain amount of power, like, that this commander just adds to your army. So, and a lot of commanders are like that. A lot of commanders are like that. Some commanders, they're not as powerful, but they give you a lot more tactical flexibility. Like special weapons for the Brits or something. Like, it's not about raw power, it's about having more options and styles to play. Or the Commando Regiment for Brits as well. Not that we see Brits anymore. God knows that faction needs some help. I mean, we see them from time to time and they do look sweet, but they're just like, ugh, they're just a bit brittle, you know what I mean? Because of the way they're designed and the way they have to tech. And the way their faction has to approach certain things. Yeah, they just need a bit of help, the Brits. So we've got another exchange here, which is heavily favouring the Axis, of course. Some conscripts going to come on in here. Wow, they're going to try and push across the open here. Okay, actually, nice, yeah. Using the Flammenwerfer to drive the Axis forces out of cover, working as intended. That's what flamethrowers do. Looks like the G43 upgrade just now finishing up on these Panzer Fusiliers, and it is going to be mechanized reg tech here. So I guess we're going to see a Panzer II Lukes come onto the field in due course. Still techless here. Techless, the most powerful sorcerer of the High Elves. But yeah, still techless at the moment. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so then he throws down the Sport Armor Core. Great. Not techless anymore. So it's 4 conscripts. Yeah, so this is the same build so far from Pushka. Same build so far. I'm kind of hoping we see Lend-Lease, because Lend-Lease is a really fun one. But he's probably not going to be Lend-Lease because we've already got Sport Armor Core down. I don't know. I feel like if you want to, I feel like players. How to phrase this? I think that most players think that to get the most value out of Lend-Lease, you have to not go Support Armor Core, because there's heavy overlap, obviously, between the ability to call in a Dansak and the ability that the Support Armor Core gives you to make a Maxim. But I kind of think that that's a little bit naive, and I think that at the higher ends of play that that's just not what players think, because the Support Armor Core just offers you so much. Like, well, and by so much I mostly mean the Zis gun, but also the mortar is useful. So, and also to be honest, I mean, I've seen players with access to the Dushka still build the Maxim because it's just cheaper, and it takes up, I believe it takes up less unit cap, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it does. Nice grenade! Oh, quick incendiary comes over the hedge there. Yikes, that's going to force those conscripts back. Nice stuff there. MG34 squad has been mixed in here, so CoH2 is going for a pretty nicely balanced army here. I mean, I like what I see. Kuba Wagon went down somewhere. I must have missed that one off camera. Sorry about that one, but you know me, Magpie 842, forensic casting. So yeah, here comes the Panzer II Lukes. Just going to police the conscripts away from this critical cutoff. Wow, anti-vehicle grenades are done, and they're going to donk the Panzer II here. That is going to bust the engine up. Not what you want. That's going to have to limp away and get prepared here. Where are the... Oh, they're actually setting mines here, the Storm Pioneers. Okay, that's something. That's in a very far back position. These mines are like... I don't know. No, I'm sure they'll be fine, actually. Sorry, ignore me. I was wrong. Yeah, that'll do fine. 2 conscripts, actually. I mean, you hope for better, but it'll do. Kettenwerf are going to get added into the mix here as insurance against the inevitable T-70 that we probably are going to be seeing here. This gun gets added in as insurance against the already present Panzer II Lukes. Still waiting for Pushka here to make a commander choice, leaving themselves that flexibility for now. I'm still not sure I understand the point of this commander. Like, why are we taking this one over, like, just another Soviet commander who we already know is good? Like, what's the game plan? What is the potency offered by this combination of elements that you cannot get elsewhere? That's what I want to know, because it's interesting that this is not an IS-2 commander. That is like the key thing I'm noting, is that Pushka has opted to play this game with no access to an IS-2. And that is unusual for Soviet players. They normally want access to an IS-2. At least the option, like one of your 3 commanders just have the option of an IS-2, is what we normally see from Soviet players. And also, I mean, it helps that the IS-2 commanders are like basically both really good. They both have just a strong playstyle outside of the IS-2 that gets stronger with the IS-2. Okay, so it's another anti-tank grenade going to donk the T-70 here. Sorry, the Panzer II. T-70 is going to be transitioning in here. Going to slow down for a moment here just to hose down some Axis infantry in mid. But if he's quick, he could actually catch this T-70 on the retreat. Sorry, this Panzer II on the retreat. Oh, you want to go this way, surely. Okay, then. Brings it down here. I don't know what I make of this positioning. There's definitely a timeline that exists where you get the T's. You don't stop to take shots at retreating infantry here. You just move it directly to here. And then from the Panzer II is retreating all the way across here with a broken engine, and you're hitting it with the T-70. I think that's quite a nice timeline. I mean, it's risky because it involves moving the T-70 down here without any mine sweeping, but I mean, I'm happy to take that risk, to be honest. I mean, if you break your engine, I mean, I don't think you're in immediate danger of losing that T-70. You have to be pretty unlucky. I mean, yeah, there's a Kettenwerfer, but it's not in position. I suppose there's no way the Soviet player could know that, though, and it's definitely safer to move the T-70 down here. I just like playing to kill the Panzer II. I've just seen too many games where Panzer II's just go on to get 5 stars and kill like 100 models over the game, and you're just like, really? Yikes. Alright, so Schwerwehrmacht Schlepper now moving out onto the field here for CoH2, and this is almost certain to be for the Schwerpanzer HQ. Good place for it on this map. We often see Axis players throw it down like here, or slightly more aggressively sometimes here. It's nice to have it somewhere around here, because this is a real weakness on this map. This map is not symmetrical, and this cutoff point, there's just no equivalent weakness on the other side of the map. I mean, not. I mean, there are like there are weaknesses to spawning on the west of this map, but like none of them I would say that are as bad as this cutoff. This cutoff just swings so many games on this particular asymmetrical map. It's just such an important. I would say it's the single most important like standard territory point on this map, and the one we most often see decide the outcome of games. And there's just no equivalent weakness for the western spawning player. Of all the asymmetrical maps, I feel like Kolodny Farm is like one of the least fair. Like, I just feel like east spawning player has a really hard time, like more times than not, because of advantages and disadvantages out on the map. Maybe at the high ends of play I might have that wrong. There might be some really good advantages to spawning in the east that I'm not taking into account, but like it just seems that way to me. And it's definitely not as bad as it used to be. Like, obviously Kolodny has had a couple of redesigns here and there over the years, and like it's not as pronounced as it used to be, the weakness of spawning in the east. Speculative Zis barrage here, not going to find anything, but that's okay, they're not expensive. Low investment, highly variable payout, potentially high reward option there. So yeah, Kettenwerfer here does find the T-70 and Arc. He's going to get one more shot? No. Yes! Oh, it's a second Kettenwerfer. Woof. Well, again, I mean, with two Kettenwerfers, that T-70 was not long for this world. And yeah, cobbles together the kill there. But I mean, the midline of the map has been firmly in Allied hands for a little while now. Scoreline differential is opening up now. 349 here for Pushka over the 335 of Jixquiat. So that's nice. This is the dynamic we're used to seeing, of course. Okay, so he goes for guards motor coordination. That's what all that hubbub over the radio was all about. So yeah, identical build to what we saw last time. He's going to use this, of course, to call in the 120 mil mortar tube. So looks like this is a pretty like comfortable kind of almost go-to style perhaps for Pushka. And it is a safe play style. Obersoldaten going to be the first choice out of the Schwerpanzer HQ here. Panzer authorization has finished. 120 mil tube here. Connecting with a decent amount of damage on its first shell. This is more like it. Alright, this is how the beginnings of a good 120 mil look. We need a few more good hits to get it up to like Vet 2, but if you can do that quickly, then it can actually go on to be pretty scary. So, a nice first shell. A nice first shell. And Pushka here, kind of styling on the map a little bit. But there's going to be a bubble of power here. I mean, these two Kettenwerfers, yeah, they killed the T-70, but now they are kind of paperweights. I mean, yeah, they can still capture, and yeah, they still contribute to fights, more so than most other weapon teams, and they can retreat, so, you know, you can creep forwards and shoot with your KARs into a fight and stuff, but, like, what I'm saying is these do not look very good when your opponent has no vehicles, so a weird sort of disadvantage of having great anti-tank that then kills your opponent's only light vehicle is that now they're kind of just going to be, like, well, for now, doing nothing. So that is like an amount of manpower in two squads that Pushka just doesn't have to worry about. So that's kind of okay. I would love for Pushka to not get a T-34, and I feel like in this game Pushka has had much better fuel income for the first 15 minutes of the game, and Pushka has also just like been able to apply scoreline pressure rather than being under scoreline pressure for the first like 15 minutes of this game, which I hope is going to make Pushka feel safe enough that they don't have to spend their fuel straight away and they can just save up for a slightly more powerful option. And, you know, I just feel like building a regular T-34 into an opponent who already has two Kettenwerfers is just, like, not good. I mean, not unless you're forced to, and at the moment I just feel like there's no hurry, there's no rush. Like, if he buys a T-34 here, I'm going to be low-key pissed off. So he's adding in a Maxim now. This is really cool. He does leave it late with these Maxims, man. I mean, this is a late Maxim. But it's not like... I mean, you know what? I reckon my advice would probably be to Pushka, actually. Like, swap the order of the Maxim and the mortar tube. Get the Maxim out before the mortar tube, and get two of them out before the mortar tube, because the Maxims only cost 240. The mortar tube is like 300? 340. Yeah, so you can basically get two Maxims. Wow. You can get like 2 2/3 Maxims for the cost of that mortar tube. That's not actually accurate. Don't run the numbers on that. You can get like You can get like 1.4 Maxims for the cost of that tube. And I just think that the Maxims are much more dependable, they're much more reliable. But hang on now, JixQ, doing a pretty good push, has Axis units advancing unimpeded in the south. Advancing, they're about to be impeded, but they've made good grounds, going to be grabbing fuel. They've grabbed the VP in the north, and there's a big battle in mid, which also appears to be going JixQ's way. So, there's a T-34 in the queue. Well, what are we doing here? How much more expensive is a T-34-85? Have I got this wrong? Okay, it's like 40 more expensive. I just don't think you're in danger of dying in the next, like, 5 minutes. So why not save? If he cancels this at the last second and was producing it just in case he was about to die, cancel it now, cancel it now. Oh, he's going to make it. God damn it. Okay, well, we've now just got a veterancy sponge for all of these Rakettenwerfers to feed off of on the field. That's nice. Alright, okay, alright. Unlikely line of play, but it is possible that given that the only Stern AT in this Axis list is the 2 Rakettenwerfers, and given that Rakettenwerfers are slower than T-34s, it is possible that this T-34 manages to be quite efficient just by being where the Rakettenwerfers aren't. But that's a risky line that involves quite a lot of coordination, good scouting, good decision making, that all has to be on point for Pushka. You know, if you fuck up once with the T-34 and like it hits mines, or like you know, just gets caught out by the 2 Rakettenwerfers, it's just going to die almost immediately. Are we really going to stay and take more hits? What are we doing? This is what I mean. If you fuck up once. So just didn't quite reverse that T-34 out there. I mean, it didn't need to die there. That was definitely a mistake, but it didn't quite reverse it out of range of those Rakettenwerfers promptly enough, and we'll be losing it. Now we've got a Stukas on the field, so are we taking some barrages, I imagine, about here? Yep. Oh, that is a miss. But he does level the building, so that's something. Was that a literal... Okay, yeah, that was an actual miss. Oh well. But I mean, the Axis player is about to be able to make another field choice. Go on, get another Stukas first. Do it. Do it. I would be really amused if he just goes for double Stukas. That's going to make me really happy. Do it. How much manpower do you need? 390. Wow, they're actually quite manpower heavy, aren't they? Double tube? I'm sorry, when did he click that tube? He can't have clicked that after he knew about the Stukas, can he? Ooh, I don't know about that. If he clicked that after he knew about the Stukas, that is a pretty bad choice. If he clicked it just before, that's a pretty unlucky choice. But you know, we've seen this 2 games running now. Kind of a bit of a weakness of the Guards Motor Coordination Tactics Giza is you don't have an airborne recon option or any other kind of recon option. You know, no radio intercepts, no spy network, no what is it called? The partisan spy network or whatever it is. You don't have anything like that. Another T-34. No. Which basically means that, yeah, your opponent can just, like, get these units, stuck as a foos, and you just don't know about it. And then you do things like choose a second 120mm mortar tube, like, right before your opponent hits you with a stuck as a foos, and it's like, yeah, feels bad. Nice mines here, gonna break the engine and kill some models on these Storm Pioneers, so getting a bit lucky there as Pushka. What did he just lose? Did he just lose those Storm Pioneers? Oh, yikes. Was that another mine or a 120mm tube? Well, whatever it was, those Storm Pioneers are gone, and that's a bit of a problem. That's an expensive loss that he has to replace. You cannot function without one squad of Storm Pioneers, usually, as OKW. So indeed, there it is. The squad of Storm Pioneers comes down. What are they, like 320 manpower? There's like some seriously expensive stuff. You don't want to be losing them. 300 manpower. Okay, yeah. You just don't want to be losing them. They are amazingly useful. Pardon me. Oh my god, these 120mm just not being accurate. 7 kills on one though, not so bad, I suppose. So he's going to lose one of the tubes here. Oh my god, I always forget that the 120mm tubes can fall back with just one man, because they got wheels and stuff. There's one guy just heroically gets that out of there. Yeah, I always forget that. Okay, cool. Well, he doesn't actually lose the 120mm tube. That's a bit lucky. But as we just heard from the announcer, yeah, only 200 points now remaining for the Axis player, but I feel like that this game is still within the acceptable curve where the Axis player can stabilize in the next 5 minutes or so, or 5 to 10 minutes even, and just grind out a win. The scoreline looks bad, but I'm not actually worried for JixQE yet, because the unit composition is good, and so far the tactics have been pretty good out of JixQE, so... Soviet forces will secure the north of the map though, and that will reapply the scoreline pressure, and I think that is mandatory for Pushka. If Pushka is not pushing on the scoreline, then I feel like they're probably going to lose this game. So, Storm Pioneers actually managed to find an exposed 120mm tube here. Not going to be able to do enough damage, but knowing the positioning is interesting. Perhaps we'll see a Stuka-Zafus barrage in that area in the next few minutes. Let's just have a look here. A lot of fuel being saved up here from JixQE, so this is either Panther, Panzer IV, or... well, yeah, it's basically those. I mean, he might just keep saving, actually, and when he has enough to tech and get the King Tiger, go for that. Like, this is a fine King Tiger map. It's, like, not great, but it's not bad either. Pardon me. Basically, it's very hard to deal with the King Tiger as the allied player if the King Tiger, like, manages to control this area. If you can repulse the King Tiger whilst it's moving through this choke, then you're kind of okay, but once the King Tiger gets to like here and can hide behind this building, it's like, that is a tough game that you're in then. But King Tigers are very slow and they're very loud, so, you know, you do get a moment to try and prepare for that. Is this an 85? No. T-34 here, could be doing some attack rounds. There we go, nicely done. Starts taking... okay, now he needs to stop attack rounding. Oh, is he going to get the, is he going to get the loops? Nice shot. Now slink back, slink back. Okay, nicely done. Stuka-Zafus barrage comes in, takes out a machine gun. Is that a tube as well? Just the machine gun, so that's pretty nice. Looks like the T-34 able to escape. The Panzer II is knocked out, and that is a significant loss. That Panzer II was providing a lot of utility. Triple cap now established. So actually things beginning to look a bit sour now for JixQE. If you were going to stabilize, it probably doesn't look like you falling back at this timing and losing a Panzer II. But he's not had his last chance yet. He will get another bite at this apple. He just needs to get it right next time. And yeah, the T-34 waiting in ambush behind this line of sight blocker. That was nice. I guess next time you're going to have to send one of your Kettenwerfers through this way instead of having them both grouped up here. I mean, grouping up Kettenwerfers, like, we've seen it be effective this game when it took out the T-34 here. But generally, when it comes to, as a general principle, I am usually opposed or would advise against grouping up your anti-tank options, just because then you are not benefiting from any extra coverage. If your two AT guns are covering the exact same area, you're not getting any overlapping fields of fire. They're not defending each other particularly. If one of them gets flanked, then they are both flanked. And you're not like... It's as easy to approach two anti-tank guns that are right next to each other facing the same way as it is to approach one anti-tank gun. Okay, you get punished twice as hard if they get to shoot you because you're taking 2 hits, but it is as easy to approach if they are set up that way. Whereas if you have two guns that are separated and facing in covering directions or just different directions, that is much harder to approach. So for these reasons, I tend to prefer spreading my... It's the same deal with snipers. Like, don't keep them grouped up, because then if one sniper is in danger or gets flanked or gets caught out, then you lose them both. And they're not like... Just snipers should be spread out for all of the reasons I just mentioned with AT guns. Usually. There are times when you will want to bring them close together. But anyway, as a general principle, which I've now been going on about for too long. Tiger tank! Oh yeah, of course that's what he was saving his fuel for. Okay, well this is what I mean about. So, is he going to stabilize now? The Tiger tank is quite the beast. Oh wow, if he gets this as well. Run, T-34! Run faster! Oh god. The Tiger is pursuing relentlessly. This T-34 is probably not long for this world. He manages to keep turning to just buy himself a bit more line of sight blocker here. Zisgun steps up to the mark to try and take some shots here. T-34 should come back in now. Come back in now. Come back in now. Why does he not get into the rear armor? Run, buddy. Oh no, he gets hit in the rear by a Kettenwerfer. That's the last thing this T-34 needed, because now it can die to one hit from the Tiger. man, he missed his moment. It was just stationary here for too long. If he came in behind that, then he doesn't get hit by this. Then he's behind the turret. Then this T-34 is still alive, coming around and making a mockery of this Tiger. As it is, he loses the T-34. Now, he's getting a bit lucky here. The Tiger is stricken. It's being pursued by conscripts. Marked vehicle comes down. It's getting dinged in the rear armor by the Maxim, which is doing damage. Believe me, that is actually doing small amounts of damage. But when it's on this little health, that's significant. AT grenades are cooling down on these conscripts, and he gets the kill. I didn't actually see what that was with. Was just with rifle fire? And JixQE concedes? Yeah, that probably is over, actually. Yeah. All right, fair enough, yeah. Wow, nicely done. Pushka here taking 2 sweet wins out on the ladder. Neither of them super fluent. Neither of them sort of like the most convincing wins I've ever seen, but definitely a stable, reliable build. The opening was techless 4 conscripts into support weapon Campanier. What was he doing then? Like Zis gun, mortar tube, MGs. Like after the Zis gun, I'm not sure I 100% agree with the order, but it wasn't terrible either. And then like the first T-34. In fact, I think both of these T-34s, I was like, not sure. As it turned out, even though he did miss his opportunity to make this T-34 look like a god, it actually did enough in that fight by getting the Tiger down to a point where it was able to be low enough health to be taken out by the conscripts here. So I don't agree with the second T-34, but in this game, it did contribute to a series of events that led to the Tiger being taken out and ultimately his opponent conceding. I just think that other units could have done that better, and even this T-34 could have been used slightly better in that fight. But it's easy for me to say, I'm up here just casting my cast, looking at all the mistakes, seeing all the obvious errors, while these players are frantically panning their screens around and making many actions per minute, and just kind of, it's a very different experience playing. And God knows I don't look as good as Pushka does when I play online, so so don't worry about that. Great game. Oh, looks like Pushka was just bringing out Katusha as the game closed as well. Nice. So I would say if you're learning Company of Heroes 2, if you're interested in Soviet builds, this is quite an approachable build for a novice player to take on. It's relatively forgiving. It's quite robust. No part of the build or no part of the unit micro or part of the sort of strategic approach is overly onerous in terms of skill or experience required. This is just a robust Soviet build that you can take and play with. As I say, I would probably mess with the build ordering. I'm not sure I quite agree with bringing in the 120mm tube at the timing that Pushka has done in both of these games. But it hasn't looked terrible either, and as I've said before, I'm still a fan of the 120mm tube because it's fun, and for that reason, absolutely, feel free to bring it in at Pushka's timing. Yeah, what I'm saying is this is a build that you can totally transpose. Guard Motor Coordination and Lend-Lease are 2 fantastic commanders. Not sure about that guy in the end. If it was me, I'd probably take an IS-2 commander, or like if I was feeling really sort of like trolley, take an ISU-152 commander. But I would... I'm not sure about that commander he had on the end was Pushka, but apart from that, Pushka here, just a really great sort of like style that you could emulate if you're looking to learn and get sort of used to playing Soviets with a relatively robust and forgiving build. Great, I guess that concludes this cast. Thank you very much for watching. I'll be streaming on Magpie 842. Sorry, it'll be twitch.tv/Magpie 842. I will be streaming Dirt Rally 2 and probably a couple of other things, because as of probably starting this week, I will be considerably locked in. So yeah, in order to stave off the cabin fever, I'll be doing some stuff online. Hooray. Thanks very much for watching again. Shout out to Polly for being awesome, by the way. You know you're out there. I guess that's it for now. I feel like there was something else I was supposed to say, but I can't remember what it was. So this for now, Magpie 842 signing out.